Mr. Chester Lester Gillum kept on lying on other folks until his crazy lunatic mother-in-law knocked him in the head with the hammer. Some days he'd tell so many bold-faced lies until his big nasty-looking mouth wouldn't even close. As he stood there, vigorously slobbing all over himself, his idiot wife Coletta, and all his ugly bug-eyed kids, as they all stood outside on Piggly Wiggly's small trash-littered parking lots, usually half naked after getting himself savagely beat up by somebody usually half his size as his ugly bow-legged, kinky-headed, blabber-mouthing wife, Miss Coletta Aline Gillum, stood there angrily popping off and putting her huge, nasty, mud-covered dress back on after several frustrated women had loudly dunked her against the hard concrete pavement nearly 90 times for running her big twisted mouth. All the while, several other men would be angrily taking turns going upside her crazy lunatic husband, Mr. Chester Lester Gillum's small knotty head for lying on them as he lay there flat on the ground, loudly yelling, screaming, hooping and hollering while they all continued systematically beating him within inches of his good-for-nothing, too big, spineless wimp life. On and on they'd all go tirelessly pounding away right smack dab upside his crazy lunatic head unabated as his stupid wife Coletta and all their 19 half-starved ugly kids stood there laughing, looking on. All the while they'd be loudly yelling out, "That blame you, Chester, why you loud-mouthed lying idiot you. We done told you about lying on us all the time. You and your ugly wig-wearing crazy lunatic wife Coletta. Now take that ugly, gossiping, dirty dress-wearing idiot of yours back home and stay there this time," as they all continued putting large protruding knots upside his small, stupid head, and he kept right on bucking his huge, bulging eyes, licking out his long, nasty-looking, snuff-dipping tongue, and loudly screaming and yelling himself half to death, as they all quickly jumped back up and let him go, while loudly laughing, sniggering, and giggling themselves half to death nearly all day long. Then, after always slowly regaining his idiotic composure and still as mad as a mule, Mr. Chester Lester Gillum would quickly grab up his ugly humpback wife, Miss Coletta, and all his 19 half-starved kids and rush back home while they all crammed, packed, and crowded inside their small, filthy one-room shack filled up knee-deep with loose trash, litter, and debris as they all stepped over, pushed over, squeezed through, and all their wet, nasty mildew belonging until they finally made it to their one and only dirty, cluttered up bed, where they all pulled off their filthy, mud-covered clothes and fell dead asleep, where they all lay there loudly snoring all night long. On and on they'd all laid there with their big twisted mouths sprung wide open, loudly snoring with their huge, stinky feet stuck straight up in the air, making loud, obnoxious noises nearly all night long. Louder and louder and louder, they'd all would be loudly snoring until nobody else in town could even hear their own ears just before Mr. Chester Lester Gillum's crazy lunatic wife, Coletta, would once again dash him in the face with a large bucket full of ice water and nearly drown him as he quickly hopped up out of bed as mad as a mule, reached over, hauled off, and loudly slapped her ugly, contorted face halfway off while yelling out, "That blame you, Coletta, why you crazy, bug-eyed, giggling idiot you. I just bet you won't do that no that blame mo, why you ugly, bug-eyed, giggling idiot you. I just bet you won't do that no that blame mo. That's exactly what you get." As he quickly drew back, hauled off, and loudly slapped her again, this time nearly clean across the entire parking lot into one of their nosy neighbors' small, filthy yards, nearly taking down their entire fence. As she then stood there right smack dab in their yard, loudly yelling, screaming, hooping and hollering, and jumping up and down, always looking for pity and sympathy, while also vigorously rubbing her ugly, contorted face and poking out both her big, twisted lips, as they all repeatedly yelled out, "That blame it, Coletta, shut up and go back home, right that smacking now. Coletta, that blame it, we mean it, shut up and go back home. We mean it, right that smacking now," as she continued standing there along with all her 19 half-starved ugly kids still loudly yelling, screaming, hooping and hollering, loud and louder, non-stop until their tiny broken windows completely popped out, and her huge mud-covered, filthy dress completely fell off her huge humpback, leaving her standing there now, buck-naked, still loudly hooping and hollering without any question, as upset, frustrated, and as mad as she could possibly be. Then, just like always, at 4 o'clock the very next morning, there he once again stood, still half naked, with his big nasty-looking mouth sprung wide open, vigorously slobbing all over himself and his idiot wife Coletta and all their bug-eyed, ugly kids on Piggly Wiggly's small, trashy little parking lot, telling one bold-faced lie right after the next, non-stop, while bucking his big budging eyes and repeatedly licking out his long protruding tongue and loudly giggling himself nearly to death, just before somebody else got highly offended about him lying on them and tried their best to somehow make him shut up, always without any question, all to no avail. On and on he continued to go, telling one bold-faced lie right after the next, while laughing and jumping up and down as his ugly, bow-legged, kinky-headed, blabbermouthing wife, Miss Coretta, also stood there angrily popping off and yelling out, "That blame all of y'all. Nobody can't make me shut up. I mean it. That blame all of y'all. Nobody can't make me shut up," as her and her 19 half-starved ugly kids all stood there repeatedly yelling, screaming, hooping, and hollering while jumping up and down, while he kept right on lying on other folks until his crazy lunatic mother-in-law one day rushed over, hauled off, and hit him upside the head with the hammer, nearly knocking off his crazy head as he stood there yelling, screaming, hooping, and hollering, and she stood there laughing, sniggering, and giggling herself half to death nearly all day long.